morning. I am Anko Nguyen, and I am the President and Chief Executive Officer, as well as a member of the board of Atara Biotherapeutics. I'm very happy to welcome you to the Atara Biotherapeutics 2025 Annual Meeting of Stockholders. Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to introduce to you the members of the board and the members of the business team who are with us today via teleconference. The members of the board with us virtually today are Pascal Touchon, Chair of the Board, Carol Gallagher, William Hayden, Greg Ciangoli, Matthew Fust, and Nachi Subramanian. The officers of the company with us virtually today are Janina Grant-Gorta, Chief Accounting Officer, Jim Sessick, Senior Vice President, Regulatory Affairs, and John Chao, Head of Legal. I would also like to introduce Tricia Siegel of Deloitte Touche LLP, the company's independent registered public accounting firm, and Carlton Fleming of Sidley Austin LLP, the company's outside legal counsel, who are also in attendance virtually and available to respond to appropriate questions. John Chao, our Head of Legal and Corporate Secretary, will act as Secretary for the meeting. The meeting will now officially come to order. The time is now 9:01 a.m. Pacific Time on June 10th, 2025, and the polls are now open for voting on all matters to be presented. The polls will be closed to voting after we go through the matters to be voted on. As you know, we are hosting today's meeting through a virtual online platform hosted by Broadridge Financial Solutions. This meeting is being recorded and will be archived for 1 year after the date of meeting at the meeting site, virtualshareholdermeeting.com. Look for Atara 2025. We will proceed now with the formal business of the meeting in the order set forth in your notice of annual meeting and proxy statement. We will first present the 4 proposals submitted for approval. Please save all questions related to the proposals for after all of the proposals have been presented, after which we will announce the preliminary results of the voting. As I mentioned earlier, the polls are open for voting on all matters presented. After I describe each item to be voted on, we will take questions germane to the proposals, if any, and thereafter we will close the polls. We will not accept ballots, proxies, revocations, or changes after the closing of the polls. If you have already submitted your vote by proxy and do not wish to change your vote, you do not need to vote now, and your shares will be voted as previously instructed. If you intend to vote and have not already done so, you must submit your vote online now in order for it to be counted. If you have not voted, I encourage you to vote online now by logging into the meeting website as a stockholder using the 16-digit control number you received with your proxy materials and clicking the link provided on the screen. Following the conclusion of the formal part of our meeting, and if we have time, we will try to answer appropriate questions submitted. Stockholders who are attending this meeting with a valid 16-digit control number can submit questions through the text box located on your screen. Guests to the meeting will not be able to ask questions. Will the Secretary of this meeting please report at this time with respect to the mailing of the notice of the annual meeting and the stockholders list?
I have at this meeting a complete list of the stockholders of record of the company's common stock on April 15th, 2025, the record date for this meeting. The list has been available for examination by any stockholder for purposes germane to the meeting during ordinary business hours at our corporate headquarters for the past 10 days, and is available for inspection during this meeting for any reason germane to this meeting. If you wish, please click on the link on your online portal to view the list. I also have an affidavit dated May 15th, 2025, certifying that on April 28th, 2025, a notice of the annual meeting of stockholders of the company was deposited in the United States mail to all stockholders of record at the close of business on April 15th, 2025.
At this time, I am appointing Carlton Fleming of Sidley Austin LLP to act as the Inspector of Elections at this meeting. Mr. Fleming has taken and subscribed to the customary oath of office to execute his duties with strict impartiality. We will file this oath with the records of the meeting. His function is to decide upon the qualifications of voters, accept their votes, and when balloting on all matters is completed, to tally the final votes. Will the Secretary please report at this time with respect to the existence of a quorum?
I have been informed by the Inspector of Election that proxies have been received for 4,533,724 of the 5,961,323 shares of common stock outstanding on the record date, which represents approximately 76% of the total number of outstanding shares. This constitutes a quorum for the meeting today, and we may now carry out the official business of the meeting.
There are 4 proposals to be considered by the stockholders at this meeting. The first item of business is the election of 3 directors to serve until the 2028 annual meeting of stockholders and until their successors are elected. The nominees for director are Anko Nguyen, Matthew Fust, Gregory Ciangoli. The second item of business today is the proposal to approve, on an advisory basis, the compensation paid to the company's named executive officers as described in the proxy statement. The stockholders have been asked to vote on an advisory basis on the following resolution. Resolved that the compensation paid to the company's named executive officers as disclosed pursuant to Item 402 of Regulation S-K, including the compensation discussion and analysis, compensation tables, and narrative discussion that accompanies the compensation tables, is hereby approved. The third item of business today is the stockholders' preferred frequency of future advisory notes on the executive compensation of the company's named executive officers. They're asked to indicate on an advisory basis whether they would prefer an advisory vote every year, every 2 years, or every 3 years. The fourth item of business today is the ratification of the selection of Deloitte Touche LLP as the independent registered public accounting firm of the company for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. As a reminder, we'll now review and answer questions that pertain to the aforementioned proposals. There are no questions. The time is now 9:07 a.m. on June 10th, 2025 Pacific Time, and the polls are closed for voting. May we have the preliminary results of the voting?
The report of the Inspector of Election covering the proposals presented at this meeting is as follows. The proposal to elect Anko Nguyen, Matthew K. Fust, and Gregory A. Ciangoli as directors of the company is carried. The resolution concerning the advisory vote on the executive compensation of the company's named executive officers is approved. A majority of the shares of common stock cast that were entitled to vote and represented in person, by remote communication, or by proxy at this meeting were voted for every 1 year as the preferred frequency of future advisory votes on the executive compensation of the company's named executive officers. The appointment of Deloitte Touche LLP as the independent registered public accounting firm of the company for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025 is ratified. A full tally of the final voting results will be published in a current report on Form 8-K, which will be filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission within 4 business days of this meeting.
This concludes the formal portion of today's meeting. That is all the time we have today. It appears that there are no additional questions, and thank you again for your attendance at today's meeting and for your continued support of Atara Biotherapeutics. This meeting is concluded.
The meeting has now concluded. Thank you for joining, and have a pleasant day.
The host has ended this call. Goodbye.